We've mentioned job losses in retail and hospitality earlier in the show. The finance sector, too, has been shedding its workforce across the board, from high street to global investment banks. Last year in Australia, the finance sector union estimates that the big four banks collectively made 3,309 roles redundant. I spoke to the FSU's National Secretary, Leon Carter, earlier. Leon Carter, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
How serious do you see the layoffs in the finance sector this year?
Well, unfortunately, this year we have already had about 3,500 workers lose their job from the most profitable industry in the country. Unfortunately, finance workers continue to be treated as some expendable commodity every time a financial institution wants a bump in their share price.
We have got profit results coming around the corner, of course, again. Now, the rationale that's often given is very much sort of cost-cutting and restructuring at the moment as banks batten down the hatches.
When banks tell this story that the only way that they can be profitable is by sacking or sending Australian jobs overseas, they are lying. Our industry is more successful, more profitable. They have greater market share now than they did at the start of the GFC.
So, Leon, you don't buy this argument about return on equity, because that has actually been coming down. Credit growth is falling, and you know, the banks, in order to maintain that level of performance, have to do something, presumably.
Well, is it more difficult to make as much money today in Australia if you're a bank? Yes. Is it difficult? Of course. Yet they are continuing to make higher and higher profits. And those profits are now being made more and more at the expense of their Australian workforce and also the customers. But our focus is on the worker. Our members are asked to work longer hours for less pay. More of their jobs are at risk than any other stage. If it's about return on equity, then let's have a debate about what is a sustainable and responsible return on equity that allows banks to keep people employed, rather than this insatiable greed that comes from the investment community that says we want an ever-increasing return on equity and we don't care how many thousand workers lose their jobs.
You mentioned the issue of offshoring, which of course seems to be growing. Do you have are there different approaches that the FSU is taking? I know that you're campaigning against, I think, Suncorp at the moment, but are some companies doing this in a different way from others?
Well, they all do it in a different way, but for most part, they all lie about it. They want to secretly send jobs and people's financial data overseas and yet pretend to be iconic Australian employers.
For those workers who have been laid off, have you got any sense at all about how quickly and indeed whether they have been able to get back into the workforce?
Well, a couple of years ago, it was a truism that if you lost your job in one of the big four banks, it was very easy to find a job in one of the other three. That is not the case anymore. Every one of these workers, or, you know, the majority of these workers that are sent onto the dole queues by these decisions to slash and burn jobs or to offshore jobs, is being sentenced to unemployment, we think, for somewhere between 3 and 9 months. There are obviously more extreme cases than that, but they are not finding jobs in the finance industry. For the most part, they're trying to find jobs in retail and hospitality, which are also losing jobs.
Do the banks listen to you at all? I mean, I'm just looking at the membership. In the private sector, it's 13% union membership. With the FSU, is it even as much as that? And do you have much leverage?
We do. Like, if you look at the most successful bank in the country at the moment is the Commonwealth Bank. Not embarking on a major slash and burning of jobs, not embarking on offshoring of jobs. Combank is incredibly successful, and yet we've had Ian Narev very proudly come out and say, we're not going to participate in offshoring. We are not going to slash and burn like ANZ and Westpac have done this year. It wasn't that long ago that banks used to walk around pretending they had no social obligations. We've shifted them to the point where they understand they have those obligations. It's now our job and the government's job and the community's job to make sure that their obligations start with good, long-term employment opportunities for Australians.
Finally, I know the HSU dramas have tainted some unions and support for unions. Has it impacted at all in your union, the FSU?
None of us support the behaviour of the HSU officials. It is abhorrent to us as it is to everybody else in the community. The Finance Sector Union, not just because of the industry that we represent, has got a very proud history of worrying about and doing the right thing with members' money.
Leon Carter, good to talk to you.
No worries, thank you.